very much. First, I want to tell you that it's going to be very casual. So if you have any question, you can interrupt me anytime. I repeat that if you don't understand well what I'm saying, please tell me, because sometimes I have a way of twisting words. I've been involved with the 3Discover viewer from its very beginning in 1993, even very, very soon into the process, because this viewer has been developed for our own images, because people like so much our images that they say, well, we could try to make some business with it. So I've been involved with them, and the first thing that came to mind was we want to make a new viewer, we want to make nice images, but who's going to be the client? So the first thing that we had to think about was, I'm telling you this because if you feel like making a new viewer, maybe you won't make the same mistakes that I did or we did. So the first thing is target clients. So it was obvious that if we were targeting people who know a lot about stereoscopy, that it wouldn't be too big a market. We needed to make it as wide as possible. So we knew that we would target people who know nothing about stereoscopy. We wanted adults to be the first client, even though kids would have fun using it. We didn't want to make let's say, just an oversized ViewMaster. We wanted this product to be aimed at adults. And so the first requirement that we were looking for was first, it was easy to use. That was the first thing. We wanted to put this viewer in the hand of anyone, and in 2 seconds you could see the images without any problems. This was the first requirement, because you know that just changing slides on a single viewer, you can get mixed up and everything. So that was the first thing, easy to use, and even at the very beginning we thought that we could be motorized, just to make it even simpler to use. But the decision was not made yet. So the second requirement was it has to be aesthetic. It had to be nice to look at. It had to be a bit futuristic, like a bit of virtual reality. We wanted something also that was so pleasing to the eye that, let's say, a bank director could have one on his desk at work and not being laughed at, because it was a nice piece of material. And the other thing, we wanted to give it a strong visual experience. We wanted people who look at them, like the viewer, look at the image to say, wow, this is fantastic. This is good 3D. So this is what more on the photography side, but it was important that the pictures were spectacular, and also that you could load it, and with one load see many pictures. In our case, the first version of the viewer was supposed to have 10 images in it. It's just after a while that we could put 12. And we said, well, the film is not too long, the motor is strong enough, we can go up to 12. So the other thing was we wanted to have a very good quality optical system. In fact, we wanted to make to viewers a bit, let's say to viewers what IMAX is to movies. Instead of having like a ViewMaster, having a small image seems to be seen very high, seems to be seen from very far. We wanted to feel as much field of vision as possible. So that was very important, with also the adjustment of spacing for accommodating kids, any kind of people from 55 to 65 millimeter. And the last requirement, which was also the hardest to get, was to make it inexpensive. We wanted to sell many, and we wanted people to buy it. So we said, well, we'll try to make it at low cost. So once this was set up, we had to choose a format. And obviously, 35 millimeter came to mind because we have been working with this format for almost 15 years. Let's say 13 years ago. I started in '79 and we were in '94. And also, we were supposed to make thousands and thousands of production strip, production print, and only Movie Lab can do that on the 35 at a low cost. We're talking 19 cents a foot. So we went with 35 millimeter. So we had to pick up an industrial designer because we had no experience. Even if we worked with people who had industrial experience, let's say our mother company who invest was Ribbit. I don't know if you know the 3D puzzle, the Puzzle 3D. It's a puzzle with foam, and they made a fortune with that. So they were hoping to do it again with the viewer. So they had a lot of money, but they had not much experience in plastics. And plastic is not foam and it's not glue, so it's a lot different. So we find an industrial designer called Michel Dallaire. He's very well known in Canada, and he's one of the best there. We also had to work with movie film technician to see if it's possible to print at a reasonable cost the strip the way we wanted them, because we were talking thousands and tens of thousands of feet of film. And so we developed with the film lab. Now it's Technicolor in Montreal, but at the time it was another name, but it's a film lab for movie. They print essentially movie film that you're going to see in theater. And by the way, this film used in our viewer is movie film. It's the exact same stuff that what you see when you go in a theater. Due to being extinct soon, maybe because of the digital theater that are coming out. So we had to work with the film technician. We had to work with lens designer for the viewer. One of the problems we had, because we wanted to fill the field of vision, but if we get very close and you magnify too much, then you've got distortions on the side. So we had to find a way to make lenses, and it was not going to be glass lenses because they're too expensive. It was going to be plastic. So we had lenses made especially for this viewer. They call them aspherical lens, non-spherical. So that's the non-spherical lens that makes things still undistorted, well, not too much undistorted in the corner. So that was an important point. And also we had to work with mechanical engineering for the gears and for motors, and we had to develop the electronic because there's a PC board in it with a microchip you can program. So we had to. I worked myself with the engineer. Go ahead. Take a seat. Not too far because I don't use a mic. So there's a programmable microchip here, and I even worked myself with the engineer about the program that we're going to put in there. It seems simple to use this machine, but you have to think about what it's going to be, because if you push one button, it goes. But what happens if you push one and then you suddenly want to push the other one, like a fraction of a second after? So do you prefer that it goes to the entire cycle before coming back, or should the button push be at priority over the other one? So that's all questions that you have to think about when you try to make something simple and motorize it. In fact, I must say that the use is simple, but it was very, very complex to make things simple. I think it had been more simple to make things complex. Anyway, so we had the development of the PC board. So it took us 3 years to put it all together. It's kind of a long time, but we had to keep the cost low or priority all the time. So we had to, we wanted to eliminate film cores, you know, for rewinding the film around it. We wanted to just the film to wind up by itself. But if you take something and if you push a film like that in a chamber or a round thing, it will block on itself. So we had to find a way. And I don't remember, I think it's one of the designers, the team that came up with the idea of thermoforming the film. And don't call Eastman Kodak and ask them, can I put your film in the oven? They'll say, never do that. It's not meant to be put in the oven. But we did it. And you see, this is the film that comes directly out of the film lab. And this is the film after thermoforming. You see, and this is the art of our viewer, because when you put it in the cassette body like that, and all you have to do is push it. The spring effect is not strong enough to keep the motor from taking it from one side, but it's strong enough to wind the film by itself. So this is one, we had a patent on that, and I even went myself with Eddie Roy, who was our partner at the time, to Washington to explain to the patent office, to explain what's happening, because they answered to the patent application. They said, well, everybody knows that when you leave a film for a long time, it gets curly, and that's true because this thermoforming process is time and heat. If you put the heat higher, then it would take less time. It will curl like that. But if you keep it at the room temperature, then it may take years before it gets this curly effect. So we finally came up with a recipe. What we did was we rolled the film on itself very tight on a little core, and then we put it in wooden stick. We put it in the oven. It was like a pizza oven, a baker's pride oven, for an hour at 200 degrees. Now I can tell you because we don't even make any new film. 200 degrees. And after that, we left the film to set for 24 hours. 24 hours later, what we did, because if we put it like that, sorry, it takes me a few minutes to wind it, because it was so tight that there was a difference in diameter from the inside to the outside. So meaning that the curve inside was tighter than the outside. So what we did after a day was to rewind on the other end, so that what was out is now in, and we put it back in the oven for another hour at 200 degrees. And that was going to do the job. All the tests that we did for a very long time was going to work, but in fact it didn't. Because I don't know if you use a viewer, but if you take one cassette like this one and you leave it there for a year or so, what will happen is that the straight part of the film, because there's always a straight part in front of the lenses, this straight part stays straight and wants to keep this straightness. So when you put it back in after a year or so, this part will curl with making a wider turn and will jam. The good point is that if you just move it of one frame and you leave it there, it will fix by itself. After 2 or 3 days or even less, just the fact that putting back the thing curly a bit, it fixed by itself. So when we bought the things from Revit, all the inventory, we had cassettes that were there for maybe 2, 3, 4 years. So we did some kind of a marathon of just taking the old cassette and change the position so that it would work well again. If you have questions, you can interrupt me anytime. Don't. So this was the trick of the viewer to have the.
Well, yeah. So you said you had a patent on that.
Yes.
Was the TrueView from the 30s, which had the curl on it? Is a
Yeah, I know about the
system?
TrueView. The question I had, because I didn't make the research on patent myself, but the question we had was, did TrueView thermoform the film? This is what.
It has such a curl that even, you know.
Yeah, but.
Even 70 years later, it's still curling. You know?
Yeah, but that's the point. I mean, if it's roll on itself, after a few years, it would thermoform by itself without being thermoformed at the first place. And if so, is there anyone here that have seen a brand new TrueView roll when they came out?
When they came out,
It came in a little box.
and they came out. It had to be formed when they came out.
That's probably, but we didn't find a patent on that because we wouldn't have gotten it if there was one. So, and we did finally get it. So,
Even if they had one of these, got made.
yeah,
They weren't worried.
maybe they just did it without.
Or maybe they just weren't worried.
You know something? All the time we were building this machine, people say, well, let's keep secret. We don't need to tell about thermoforming. We were afraid of being copied from Asia and everything. And the only thing I had to, and I wanted to tell those people, I mean, who's going to go through all this trouble again? I mean, you have to, did you say masochist or masocchist in English? Masochist? Well, yeah, that's what you have to be to do that. Well, that's what you have to be also to do the kind of shooting that we did. Yes?
How old is your company?
Pardon?
How old is your company?
Well, my company is very new. Even if we use the same name, but I'm talking about this. Well, 3D vision for the viewer came in 1994 when Rivet invested money and became the majority owner of the company.
The 3D Vision website is still up.
Well,
And it doesn't answer.
Oh yeah, it's still because we made a new one which is very ugly, and we need to make it, but I don't know how to do that. And my partner who made it is back to teaching, and everything is still. You had a question.
Yeah. Are you still selling commercially? Or?
Well, we're going in another
Direction.
way, but I still we had an office and a place where we used to build. Cassette. We had all the machinery, but then Rivet was sold to Hasbro, and we had a contract with Rivet, and we didn't have to pay them a lot of money up front when we bought it, because Paul Galland said, well, it's your baby, so I'm going to help you try to do something with it. So we wanted to just try it again to see if we can do on a small scale what didn't work on a big one. And finally, we had a contract, but we couldn't pay. It was based on paying a certain percentage of our sales every year, and we didn't make enough sale to pay. So we were working with Paul to just forget the contract, and he was going to give everything to us. But then he sold to Hasbro, and you know what accountants are. They saw the thing, they saw the contract, and they said, well, are these guys going to pay? And so he came up to us and said, well, guys, if we don't do something before I sell, they will come at you and want their money, and they will ask you to follow the exact contract, which after 2 years we were not sure we could do. So we said the alternative is that we just rip up the contract and you bring all the machinery back. So that's what we did. But he said, I don't want to get the inventory back, so keep it because my warehouse is full already. So I still have the inventory, and if you send me an email and say I want this title or I want a few viewers, I will sell it to you with pleasure. But and I'm selling to close souvenir shop around because well I had a call from the Montmorency Falls near Quebec City. They'll buy 24 things like that. But I'm just trying to to just get rid of the inventory. The other thing I could do would be to just throw everything away, and I cannot do that. I don't want to do that.
So what's your garbage can?
Was the stumbling block more at some of the jamming issues, or more of the price point?
Well, again, this is there are lots of things that made that. You mean that made the
that made it maybe not as successful as what it could have been, because it's a great product.
Yeah, we all love it, and I'm happy because this viewer had made people know about 3D, people who wouldn't have known 3D without it. And this was my first intention. I wanted to spread my passion with as many people as possible, and obviously not with people like you who already have it. So I really wanted to have 3D known. And we could talk for hours about what went wrong, and we're still asking questions when we talk together. But there are many things that made it happen. Maybe it's just that it's still film, and we took this product off exactly when the digital era came. It can be that, it can be everything, or it can be bad marketing.
Bad marketing?
Yeah, Ribbit was a toy company. They made toys, and they wanted to use their same distribution circuit to distribute the viewer. But from the beginning, we didn't want to make a toy out of it. We wanted to make something enjoyable. We wanted to have tourists go to, let's say, Niagara Falls and take their own pictures. But then seeing that, say, well, I can bring something back from Niagara Falls that I couldn't bring back anywhere else. So I'll buy it.
Was it successful in Niagara Falls?
Yeah, we did for a while, but the thing is, this viewer sells. Yes, it does sell at tourist souvenir shop and everything, but it doesn't sell enough. It was a bit more costly. And if I go through my notes here, you'll know why it was still too costly. But it does sell. We sell a place that should sell 24 a week. They sell 24 a summer. So what happens is that shelf space is expensive, so shelf space is important. So they take the viewer and they put it in close to the back door, on the lower shelf, and no way to see it.
I've seen yours pushed away.
That's it.
Somewhere, and I said, "Oh, look!" And it was like so hidden, like nobody would even pick one up. It was just off to the side. So.
You don't put near the cashier something that doesn't sell. You put there something that rolls a lot.
What is your email?
Oh, I'll give you my card later. I'll put some cards in the front and we'll just say. So where were we going with okay? Well, okay, thermoforming. We had to make molds. There are 10 molds, plastic molds for all the equipment. Each piece, and most of the molds are from 15,000 to 25,000. So you see the amount. I think we had for 350,000 worth of molds, and some molds cost more than others, especially the lens molds. Lens molding is yes.
Who has the molds?
Oh, this is another story. Very exciting. If you let me continue, you'll get the answer a little bit later. Okay? It's just because I'll lose my. Okay, so developing the molds are costly, and then we had to also develop the production machinery. You have to do it on an industrial basis. So when we get the films like that, they're in 1,000 feet roll. So we have to do something about this. And so we had to make a cutting machine. We had to make a rolling machine. We had to make machines to insert parts in one another, like putting that inside, so that it can be done very quickly. Okay, so the entire concept finally was that the film was thermoformed, and we put some black dots. I don't know if you, well, I don't think it's possible to see, but maybe we can make this circulate. You'll see that in the bottom of the image there are black dots. Those black dots are there to for the positioning system, which is electronic. The idea is that in this part of the viewer, which is exactly between our two eyes, in front of our nose, there's a motor there, and on the other side there's a LED, a LED, and a phototransistor. The LED is light-emitting diode. It emits light in infrared, emits infrared light, and this infrared light goes through a little hole in the cassette body, goes through the side of the film, which is transparent, and then it hits a small mirror is here, a stainless steel mirror. It's not a true mirror, it just says stainless steel, but the mirror bounces back the infrared light that goes again through the side of the film, through the small window, and hit a phototransistor, which reads the light coming in. And when the black mark, can you see the black mark? The black mark at the bottom? When this black mark blocks the light path, it tells the microchip, whoop, stop. There you are. And even if the inertia brings the film too far, the motor comes back, and you probably see that it goes because it has to fight inertia and then come back. So this is how it was going to work. Okay, I told you about the programming. So we built ourselves the first 100 viewers when we got all the parts made, and we came back at the office. We just sat down and said, well, we'll have a working viewer in an hour. So we started building them, the first 100, and we were naive because no one was working well. We had plenty of problems, it's not so simple. So we can say that we had roughly 2 generations of viewer and 2 generations of film, of cassettes. At first, for the film itself, it was all optical. We shot. I have to pay attention to what I'm saying so that I'm not burning what I'm going to say tomorrow night. But we shot in negative film because most movie films are shot in negative film. So we shot on negative, and then when we came back to the office, what we did is we spliced all our 35 millimeter 36 exposure strip of film together to make a big roll of 35 film. And this roll was sent to the lab. The lab made us a work print, just printing by contact positive image. So then we got slides. So we took this roll and sent it to a photo lab, which had a machine to put frame on slides. And they would frame all our slides so that we could check them all in 3D and have an idea. The negative was put apart, and when we choose the 12 good shots, then we hired a negative editor from a movie company that came in with his glue and hot splicing machine, and he would splice. In fact, because she was a girl, Isabel, she would splice our strips in negative in the exact same way that they're making a movie film. And if you were aware, they're making movie film not on the same strip because of the splice takes some space. So they have to make an A, B, C, sometimes D roll. So that's what we did. We had an A roll. We had a lot of, in French we say amorce, let's say just film but with nothing on it. And then we had the shot number 1, shot number 4, shot number 8, And on the B roll, we had 2, we had 5, and on the C roll, we had 3 and 6, and this is, and at the film lab, they used to just, from these 3 rows, they made 3 passes, and then they made an inter-positive. And from this inter-positive, they made another inter-negative. And from this inter-negative, then they made, by looping, they made our thousands of prints. So we're at least at 3 generations here, and this is why our first cassettes were not as, well, they were good, but not as good as the other one. The second, after a while, we said, well, why don't we go digital? So we bought a machine. It's a machine that's still used by film companies to go directly from computer to movie film. In fact, it's a film recorder, but with a special movie head that you can make it advanced by 2, 4, or 8 perforation. Because the format that we use here is if you remove the spacing, the 4 perforation between the 2 eyes, is a format that exists in movie making. It's called Vista Vision. It's a bit like the ancestor of IMAX. It's taking 35, but making with a camera that goes horizontally instead of vertically. So we bought this thing, and then first we could shoot in slides, also not only in negative, but we kept shooting in negative because we liked the latitude of the film. And negative film also, it can be made, processed anywhere. So we didn't want to carry too many, well, I'm talking shooting now, I shouldn't be talking shooting, but we didn't want to carry too many exposed film but unprocessed. So when you get 10 exposed film in negative, you can drop at any single process laboratory and anywhere, and they will do it. We didn't ask for print. We didn't ask the film to be cut. So all we wanted was the film to be put in a sleeve like that, and then we would making some kind of a pizza that would go bigger and bigger while we were traveling. And so we kept shooting in negative. But the process now was we shoot, we still made the contact print to get the slide, to choose the slide, but then the chosen slide had to be just scanned, and from the scan in the computer, and then wow, we could make few adjustments, things that we couldn't do, adjustment like horizontal adjustment, things like that. Now we can do it, especially for aerial photography that was very hard to keep aligned. So we could do that, and then we just print on the film recorder all the print, the strip exactly in the same shape as the final strip, and this negative was processed and then already looped to make the final print. So we had only 1 generation instead of 3. So that was a lot better. So okay, this is done. And one thing that we had to do was to we gained something, because the other thing is that because of the splice in the older generation, we had this 4 perforation black mark between the left and right images, but also we kept this 4 frames black mark between image number 1 and image number 2 because of the thickness of the splice. So we had to do that. But when we went to digital, then we could remove what we call the intercouple space. That means that the right image from number 1 is very close to the left image of number 2, which was not the case in the first version. So we went from 24 perforation for an entire image, 24 perf, to 20 on an overall, on a 5 feet 5 feet along the strip. It's almost a feet that we gained. So that was a nice move for that too. Also, one thing I didn't tell you is that the first black mark that we made was supposed to be emulsion, black only. It was just mask that put the black mark on it. But emulsion, even the blackest emulsion black that you can find, is not black enough to stop infrared light. I don't know if you noticed, but the first version of the viewer had a red LED, which was emitting red light with the infrared light. So it was not thick enough. So we had to find another way to block the infrared light. So we went to hot stamping. Hot stamping machine is a foil that you stamp on the film, and that it sticks on the film. And we could find some foil that were very, very thick and opaque to the infrared. And this is what we did with the. But you know, that was an unwanted step that we had to. You know, it was another operation that we had to add. Then for the viewer, we then decided to change the LED and phototransistor to.
Why did you change from the red to the infrared? I don't remember why did you change from?
Because the red LED was weaker than the other one, because we knew that the film, the emulsion film, the black dot, would not be so opaque. So we had something that was weak, but it was hard to calibrate because those LEDs, you see I've got one here, I'm sure you cannot see it, but it's so tiny, and they're made by millions, and they're not identical. They are sorted through some kind of a window, and if they fall inside this window, they're good, and we get them. But the problem is if you get a lens, not a lens, but an LED that in the window was here, and that you have a phototransistor in the window that it's here, then it's all mixed up. I was going to say another word, but it doesn't work well. So it was very hard to adjust. So when we decided to go with the black hot stamping notch, or what we called it the notch at the time, then we could go with stronger LED and a better phototransistor. We could push more light, making it more reliable. Reliable? Yeah, that's it. Okay, so this is when we started adding what we call sub-operations. You see, we had many examples. Here you have the rolling pin, the stainless steel. This is acrylic plastic, and it doesn't show, but when you make this rolling pin roll and roll and roll, what happens is that a squeaky sound comes out after maybe 10-15 minutes. Very unpleasant, high-pitched sound. So what do then? You put some grease. So we had to put some grease on all the pivot of every single rolling pin. And then you've got a mirror here. The mirror is like inserted. You force the mirror between the railing here, and it's inserted like that. But when we seal the cassette, I should put it in the right way. The cassettes are sealed in an ultrasonic welding machine. That you put the cassette like that, and it's some kind of a horn, which is some kind of a, how do you say, diapason? You know, something that people who work on a piano will tuning?
Tuning fork.
Yeah, tuning fork. Yeah, it's some kind of a tuning fork that vibrates to ultrasound, and it vibrates so fast that it gives a vibration to the plastic, so that the plastic heats and welds by itself. One is very, very tight, and the other one vibrates. but you put vibration in. So what happened is that this mirror that would just squeeze in place vibrate too and just went out of angle. And if it goes out of angle, then it doesn't read the back mark exactly. So we had to add another operation. We had to put some silicone under the mirror too, and then leave it to dry so that it wouldn't change his angle during the operation of assembly. Same goes for the this is a motor bracket. You can see it better here with the motor inserted on the side, and this was inserted here with a small machine that we made, inserted inside. But when we assembled this, the bottom cap, it went again on a Branson, another ultrasonic welding machine, vibrates, then motor bracket was going up a bit, again unaligning everything. So what we had to do is, once the mother bracket was inside, we had to take a welding iron just to make it plastic, just to make it foam, just to make it melt a bit so that it stays in place. So that was another operation. I see we used to call our company the king of sub-operation, and all those sub-operations were not planned at the beginning, probably because people who worked on it didn't have enough experience. I'm sure a company like Hasbro or big toy company that are used to plastic wouldn't have done those problems. Also, we found out that this plastic, you can put anything in plastic. So we at the very beginning we put some slip in it, in the plastic itself. But one day we got a batch of film from Kodak already processed, and we put it in there, and there was too much friction. The motor was not strong enough to go from one end to another. So we started exploring, and then we realized and we learned that Kodak has changed their chemicals, and they changed the exact same, how the emulsion side, but mostly the support side. I mean the plastic side.
The base.
Base, yeah, the base. Thank you very much. And they changed a bit something, so it wouldn't work again. Everything was working, but then we had this problem coming in. We were not going to call Kodak to ask them to stop doing that. So what we did is we made many tests, and we bought a can of clean slip, which is silicone lubricant. So we had to put some clean slip in a small bottle, use what do you call this, artist, brush, and then put some lubricant on all the pathway on the side where so until it dries up, and then it would work well. But another sub-operation. Yes?
How many of these steps were performed by humans versus mechanical?
At the beginning, it was all human, because automating things costs a lot of money, and we were waiting to sell enough to justify going automation. So everything was done handmade, by hand.
But were all of these steps still pre-production? The problems that you're describing?
Oh no, we were in production. This is another, maybe that was another mistake that they did. When I say they, I'm talking about Pi Direction. I'm not talking about those who, like me, who were on the floor and they were so eager to take the viewer out that maybe they went a bit too fast.
So there were product was out there with problems.
Yeah, products was out there with problems. And another thing is that we wanted the viewer to work well under every single voltage with the battery. I mean, new batteries would go well, and old battery would still go well. So we used to test each viewer with some kind of a jig with the mimicking new and old batteries, and it was working well. But then with the old the old red lead and everything, once they went out on the field, then we realized that there was a problem not with new or old batteries, but with middle batteries. So wow, okay, what can we do? So we had to, for everything we had still in inventory, we had to buy some kind of a small, resistor that you can change. It's like we had to weld it on a certain wire, and then just for every single viewer, it was a nightmare. The alternative was to throw everything out. Is my show coming? Do you know because I'll have to run to the theater show at 3.
Your show is,
It's at 3, so I just want to make sure that if they're in advance, that they're not waiting after me.
No, they just took a break.
Okay.
Till 3 o'clock.
Okay. And also another thing, you see that all the gears were made exactly for us, in a special mold, but maybe again, lack of experience. You know, those plastic molds, when you remove the plastic, there's always what they call a bit of flash. That means plastic that goes just between two parts. So there was a little bit of flash underneath the gears, and when you make them roll, it was and it didn't work well. Sometimes it jammed, everything jammed. So we find out that the only way was to put the gears and sand them. So we had some kind of a table with a sanding paper, and there was one guy, the less intelligent of the working production line, who had something, and he was sanding the gear. So you can understand that, yes?
How many viewers total did you produce?
I think we produced, first we produced them at the factory in Montreal. I think we made maybe 60,000. And then, this is what I'm coming to exactly, and it's going to answer your question, Bill. When they saw so many sub-operations, High Direction said maybe we should move everything to Asia, because manpower is cheap there. So that's what we did. We sent everything only for the viewer. We insisted that we wanted to keep control on the cassette production. We wanted to make sure that the film was good and everything was good. So everything about the viewer was sent to Thailand, in fact. And in Thailand, they produced maybe another 50,000 viewers. This is why I still have 8,000 at home in my basement. So we had other problems too, because you know that with such magnification, when you you drop a little bit of dust on it, then it's big. So we started having problems of dust on our film. So we had to add again other operations with blowing air, with suction, and we almost made what they call a white room, you know, a room with the pressure and clean room. Yeah, in French they say it in white, and we even had some special, instead of a welcome carpet, we had a sticky carpet that when you get in, it removes things from your on the underneath of your feet.
Did you ever think of making a movie?
About this, I think it would be fun. I have
It's certainly a cable TV program. It's certainly a cable TV program.
Yeah, right. Oh, Discovery Channel.
Discovery Channel. It's the 3Discover channel.
Right.
So finally, there was so many sub-operations, and we went to Thailand. This is also when we start working on a manual version of the viewer, because they say, well, if you go manual, maybe it's going to cost less. So we start making, you see, the manual one was going to be green instead of gray. Well, I didn't like this gray and black thing. I would have wanted a bit more color. So they decided to try to make a manual one. it was going to be a nice wheel here. Because the problem we had to go manual was that now we had two format of cassette, format of film, 24 perforation and 20. So it has to be compatible. Yeah, I told you when we went digital, we could squeeze more images on the same length of film. So we had 24 with the old cassette, 20 with the new ones, and we wanted to make everything compatible so that one single cassette would work on the electronic one and on the manual one. So how can you do that? And we wanted it to be used by people who knew nothing about 3D. And they were already saying with the electronic one, oh, it skips an image. Whoop, it skips an image, because they saw two images going by. Everybody thought that it was already working badly. We had to explain. So how do you tell people, well, just turn this wheel until you see two good pictures in front of your eyes. I mean, one good picture in 3D, all the tests we made, people couldn't do something. So then we say, well, we have a black mark there. Let's use the black mark to try. So what we did is they said, well, let's try something with the black mark. So what we did is we just removed the motor, but we kept the, where is it? We kept the LED and photo transistor. And here I have, you can look at it a bit later, but I have a version. Oh, it has to be on because we need a battery anyway. There's a bit beep. There's a green light in it, and in one eye, and we hear a small beep when we just get to the black mark. So that was a way for we told people, well, just wait until you hear the beep and then stop. But there's still some batteries, still some electronics, and the cost was not worth. The difference in cost was not worth to start production. And at the same time, while we were working on that, we started selling the inventory that we built at high cost at the price that we were getting from Thailand, just to get rid of it. And even at that price, it didn't sell as much to make still to invest so much money to make it better. So that was the starting of the slope going to now. So if you have any question, I think I should stop here and just type while you ask questions.
How are you going to fix the thing with your fixing?
Oh yeah, fixing. I don't know if you have problems with your viewer. I told you about one thing. The worst thing is if you leave it too long, probably that the film will block, and if you'll try it, you won't be able to go to 12 or 1 or 2 or 11. What you do is just move it as far as you can, leave it there, do that, and probably in a few days it should work well. The other thing is, and I'm facing this almost every day. Every time I take a viewer that has not been used, but even new viewer that without cassette, I put some batteries in and it doesn't work. So the thing to make it move, and it can happen to your viewer if you leave it too long. It seems that it's some internal pressure on the gear that makes some kind of a block. So if this happens, put very fresh batteries in the viewer, push a button, and then play with the sprocket gear here. If you play it with your finger, you can unjam it. If it's not enough, what I do is I use a kitchen knife like that. I push a button and I move just over the sprocket gear, and I move back and forth. Sometimes I try to twist, put pressure, twist the viewer, and whoops! After 5 seconds, it will unjam, and then it will go very well for the rest of your life if you use it at least every 6 months or every year. Yeah, the more you use it, the better it goes.
Well, I have a suggestion. You could have added a circuit in there so that every 6 months it would beep like the
yeah, but what if you remove the batteries? So I just want to tell you that if any one of you has a viewer, and if you try it and it doesn't work, just take one of my cards and send me an email, and I'll try to help you to fix it by yourself. If you cannot, if you dare to pay to send it to me, I will pay for sending back a new one to you, because I just want you to be able to use all your images. Any more questions?
Were the different price points that these sold at? You said there were different versions that you had?
Well, the very first viewers that we sold were wholesale at $17.50. The last one that we sold were 10. So usually people double. You see, they go from so when it cost us $8, we sell it 17, and they sell it 35. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this. This was supposed to be a disposable camera, and this is the prototype. We ran the film in it, and it works well. We wanted to interest some disposable camera maker to, but it's the chicken and egg thing. With the camera, we would have sold more viewers, but to make the camera, we need to sell a bit. A lot of viewers. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.